4 hours down there.
It's interesting if you think of him like concentrating on the symbolism and how much work he did.
Oh.
And just, you need one of those too, right?
Oh, for sure.
You need a bunch of different people looking at all the different aspects of it.
Yeah.
And he was another one that had, his interpretation was, this is a lot older.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It seems, no one seems to like do a deep dive on it and go, oh, no, they figured this out.
No, right.
Zahi's example was so crazy. His explanation was, this was the national project.
Dude, I tried to watch that podcast.
Imagine if we're all going to fly without wings. This is the national project.
This exactly.
You're just going to use your mind and fly without wings. We're all just going to work on that.
I have heard him say that for 10 years, 11 years, 10 years.
National project?
Yes. I asked him that question 2015. I was in the room with Graham Hancock and him having this debate. It wasn't a debate, and Zahi flipped out earlier in the day. But, we asked him that question. I've heard him given that answer so many times. You ask him about anything precision or logistics, or these difficult to explain topics. That's the response. It's basically, they tried really hard, therefore they did. And it drives me nutty. He's not the only one who gives that response, by the way. That's a pretty stock standard answer to anything. We say, well, how did they move a 1,000-ton statue 1,000 miles, which is what they did at one point. Or how did they build the pyramid so precisely, or whatever, or how did they do it in the time frame? No, national project, they just really wanted to. And it's the response, the good examples like the Apollo, the Apollo 11 project, the Apollo program, right? Going to the moon, that was a national project at the time. There was a huge amount of resources put towards it from a relative to what NASA is today. But we didn't just fucking all come together with a big, piece of fabric and fling some people at the moon. There's technology involved, right? You can't do it without the technology.
Right.
That's the aspect of that answer that annoys me. It's like, no, I don't care how hard you try. Try does not get you like precise down to within 1,000th of an inch, or in the case of one of these vases, 4/10 of a micron, 6/10 of a micron. That's the most extreme precision I've seen on one of them.
It's interesting too that these vases, these small things that you can hold in your hand, are evidence of this incredible technology. Mm-hmm. When these enormous statues also exist, but you don't think of the vases as being the thing that's the smoking gun, but it kind of is.
They are. It's because they predate the dynastic Egyptians, because they were buried with those people. They exist. We know they existed in those times. You can't do that with the big statues, but I have a whole long 2-hour talk about how these things connect to those things, like the tube drills and the precision and the machining. It's the same technique. It's the stone types. I mean, there are a bunch of like tubular drills on the Great Pyramid, a whole bunch of them. People don't know about them or where they are, but I've got pictures and I can show people. The statues show the same machining marks. The statues reflect the same precision. The boxes, the obelisks, a lot of the stonework reflect the same thing as well. The same tools were used, the same precision shows up. And in pretty much all of those cases, the oldest and the best examples of all of those things are typically also the oldest. Like it's like the
best examples of the oldest.
The single piece columns are absolutely incredible. Like those, the Romans didn't make columns like that. Like the fact that these columns of granite in Egypt, I mean, they start off wide and they get narrower and narrower and narrower, and then they flare out at the top, and it's all a single piece. And that means that the entire piece that was quarried had to be as wide as the widest part at the top, and then machined down. These columns have friggin' vertical, they have lathe centering points on them. Like there's like imagine it's like 150 tons turning on a vertical lathe or something that they did to create some of these things.
So there's points that show that it was on a lathe?
Oh, it was definitely centering points on these columns. There's a forest of them laying out at Tanis, and you can see it on the end points. And
can we show that? That's nuts. And what's the weight of these things?
Oh, it's up to, I imagine the bigger ones are maybe 100, 150 tons, 200 tons. And you have these existing on Old Kingdom sites, like Saqqara, Giza, Abu Sir, the single-piece columns. They are also on sites later on that are attributed to the New Kingdom, places like the Luxor Temple of Karnak. However, I think that those places had a granite core and an infrastructure there already, and then those kings of the New Kingdom, Seti I, Merenptah, Ramses II, built around them. And you can see the difference in technology of what's in the granite core with the giant obelisks and the columns and the granite buildings that look like the Valley Temple and the old structures. Then outside of that, it's all sandstone and it's blocks. And they made giant columns too, but they're made from blocks of sandstone. They would stack them up and shave them down. It's a much softer stone, and making blocks out of rounds and just making columns out of rounds is way easier than trying to build a single flared, granite column. And even the Romans, I mean, it has to have been something like that. It can't have been that all the way, because you have, actually, Jamie, in that Precision Large directory, there's a picture of a column end. Like if I'm standing next to this amazing end piece, but some of them are faceted, so it can't have all been lathe work.
Right.
They have little buttresses and features, but certainly the column of the lathe, the circular part, could have been done. Or the column, the center of the column could have been done on a lathe. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean,
how big is this lathe?
Huge. I mean, that's what Chris Dunn thinks. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the columns I'm standing next to. That's at Tanis. And if you flip through, there's like a column end point that's, there's an end there. So see there's a hole in the tip. So you have a lot. This is a place called Temple of Bastet, and there were forests of these things. Like, look at that thing. That thing is one of the most.
Look at that.
That's one of my favorite artifacts in all of Egypt. It is immaculate. The faceting. Look at that bull nose that runs up the center of that frond of the palm, because these are like palm-shaped pillars. I mean, it tapers. It's thick on one end and it thins right down to the end, and it's exactly the same on either side. On each of these fronds. I would love to get there and scan this thing. One of my favorite pieces, and you just had, probably hundreds of these things on these sites. I mean, and it goes back in time. Again, these are columns from Saqqara and Abu Sir, which are all Old Kingdom sites. So again, these were existing in the early times. They didn't build columns like this later in the civilization. They built them with sandstone pieces.
Go back to those images again, please. Look how crazy that looks.
Yeah.
One solid piece of granite.
Yeah, and flared. Even the Romans, who by all accounts had far superior technology to the Egyptians. They had force multipliers, they had iron, they had all sorts of mathematical skill they got from the Greeks. They built single piece granite pillars, but they were tapered the whole way. They weren't anything as precise. They're quite rough. You've been to the Pantheon. This one's one of my favorites. This is called Pompey's Pillar. You can see the dude standing at the bottom. I've actually got a picture of me there as well, but it's.
Yeah, you see that dude at the bottom.
Yeah.
Zoom out so we can see the whole thing with him. It's not working.
There it is.
Look at that.
So I think that's a reworked column that the Romans reworked, and they carved that head top, or it's a separate stone. I'm not actually sure. But this is in Alexandria in Egypt, but huge.
And where did that come from?
And so this is how they do it. It's Aswanian granite. It's like 1,000 kilometers away.
So then when you get to New Kingdom.
So so this is the stacked rounds of sandstone, and I always like to show people this corner of Karnak because it's an unfinished column on the end there. You can see how they did it. They'd stack up those blocks and they'd basically shave it down, and they would end up, and this is imitation too, right? This is a key thing you see, even with the vases, people knew what was sophisticated. Like anyone who works with stone, whether you're primitive or not, you see an artifact like that or one of those statues or a column out of stone, you're like, holy shit, how did they do that? So it's from the gods, right? I'm going to imitate it and I'm going to try and replicate it. And so they were doing their best to replicate and imitate.
But with sandstone.
With sandstone and in a technological method that they were capable of, which is to put blocks of sandstone up,
right,
shave it down and make it look like one of these columns. And they did great work, right? Don't get me wrong. Karnak this is the great sort of hypostyle hall at Karnak. It's phenomenal. And it is the work of the New Kingdom. But it still pales in technological significance to the older stuff, the single piece stuff. But it's fabulous. I love the Karnak's one of my favorite places because you have all those examples right in front of you of high tech and then low tech.
And so by New Kingdom, what year? 1500 BC ish. So even then, they're still doing spectacular stuff. It's just not as sophisticated.
It was by all accounts, the Old Kingdom, or in the New Kingdom, that was Egypt's height, like the height of the dynastic Egyptian civilization. Like Ramses II in particular, like always call him the greatest of the Egyptian kings. Egypt had the most power, the most wealth, the most ability to do that sort of work. So they built these great temples, and it's very, very clear. Yeah, this is that Pompey's pillar, what they call it. It's very clear that they built them around and on top of existing infrastructure. In fact, at Karnak, which is attributed to Ramses II, I mean, again, the devil's in the details. You have the names of kings that go back all the way to the Old Kingdom on various structures. You also, at one point in that hall where they pulled up a massive floor tile, underneath the ground at the bottom there is a column base. It's another, like an older and white calcite column base that is the same sort of column base that you see on the very oldest of sites, which tells you there was a columned hall here before and either got destroyed or knocked down, but the whole place was rebuilt. You see this evidence for these layers of infrastructure on these sites that tells you, okay, it's like looking at these ancient sites, you always have to keep that in the back of your head, like, all right, there's been thousands of years of not only inheritance, but renovation and reuse and claiming. Like it's people have asked me if I think the statues are so old, how come they look like dynastic Egyptians? I think the answer is it's the other way around. I think the dynastic Egyptians look like the statues. So if you imagine there's evidence for like 5 or 6 of these giant 1,000-ton statues, of which are the typical of stuff you see at Luxor with the head jet and the Nemes crown, or the bowling pin thing on the head, and they're always in that iconic symbolic style of ancient Egypt.
Can you go to some of those?
Yeah, I have the Precision Large has probably got the statues. And imagine that you are a tribal culture that's emerging from this Stone Age, but you have this history and these legends of these stories, and you come across so this iconic look. And again, this stretches back. This is an Old Kingdom statue. This is made of diorite, by the way. This is called Khafre Enthroned, one of my favourite statues, with the columns from Saqqara in the background.
So this is made out of that same impossibly hard stone.
Yes, it's like a 6.5 to a 7 on the Mohs scale, and it's phenomenal. This is an incredible statue.
And this exhibits that facial symmetry as well.
It looks like it. I've not seen the actual scans from this, but this thing actually has tubular drill marks and saw cuts in it too. So it's got between his heels you see the remnants of a tube drill.
Keep that there, please.
I've probably got a picture of that in my machining directory of the tube drill between the heels. And then in the legs, on the inside, you can actually see overcuts, like saw cuts from where they cut too deeply into this insanely hard stone, and it's overrun. Which is, if you were doing this by hand, that's a mistake you'd have to be making for about 4 hours, to actually get the depth of the cut. But if you had some sort of power tool that was removing material quickly, you can overcut in there, and there's like little mistakes.
Go to the full of this, please.
Yeah.
So your thoughts are that the Egyptians were imitating these ancient looks.
Yes, I think they inherited their iconography from the artifacts that they gained in like statues like this, and also the 1,000-ton versions of statues like this. And I mean, if you look at their art style, this is one of the things that blows my mind. It's like across that 3,000-year civilization, that iconography didn't change very much. Like, it's the same look. And how do the kings draw themselves on the walls? They're always trying to position themselves as being one of the gods, right? They always talk about, eventually they got this aura of divinity. You became a god, like the pharaohs became divine. That wasn't always the case. But they grew into that over time as that civilization progressed. And they always match themselves, and they try to make themselves look like the gods. And again, eventually, once you get hubris and ego involved in some of these really big, really rich kings, you're like, damn it, I am one of the gods. Put my name on your statue. That's how I want to be remembered. And there were multiple gods. Seti I did it. His son, Ramses II, his son, Merenptah, particularly in the New Kingdom. I mean, Petrie called Ramses the Great Usurper. That was his name for him, because he was putting his name on everything, trying to label himself as one of the kings. And I think if you look at that icon from the Old Kingdom through to the Ptolemaic era, it's the same. Like, they're depicting themselves as one of these gods who are always depicted in the same way, and that's like that's part of it from day one, like it feels like. So, and I think, where do you get that picture from? It's like that. What's the poem from Percy Shelley? Ozymandias. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair. Like, it's literally a poem by Percy Shelley that talks about it. He actually gets it from, I think, an account of Diodorus Siculus coming across one of these statues in the desert that's 1,000 tons. It's like a weary traveller in a desert in an unknown land comes along to vast and trunkless legs of stone. Over, like, nearby, a shattered visage lies, still like sort of full of sneer and arrogance, and it's basically written upon this stone are the words, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my work, ye mighty in despair." And the endless sand stretch far away. I'm paraphrasing.
God, people are dicks.
Yeah.
Especially when they become kings. There it is. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair.
Nothing beside remains, round and round decay, that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the high and level sand stretch. So it's like, if you imagine you come across in the sand in the desert and you find the remnants of 1,000-ton statue. I'm sure you've seen pictures of the Ramesseum and the 1,000-ton statues. Like, there's 4 or 5 of them at least that happen, but they're incredible single-piece stone statues that were moved, in some cases, up to 1,000, like 600-700 miles away. I have them in a colossal directory.
And did they fall from earthquakes? Is that the speculation?
I suspect either that or the hands of men. I think it was with enough dudes with enough leverage, you can probably yeet that thing over and it'll crack when it falls. And I think there was a long period of them destroying all the gods and all the icon and all the, the false idols of the past. Of course. There's at a place called Tanis. There's a giant foot that my whole outstretched hand wouldn't fit in the toenail. And it's a repurposed block of granite, and Petrie found it, and there's other pieces of this statue. So we know it was a statue that, had it been standing, it's about the same size as the Statue of Liberty without the pedestal. The foot's about the same size, just give it a frame of reference. And that thing's made from Aswanian granite. Now, Tanis is in the north, and it's north of Cairo, like it's up in the delta towards the Mediterranean, and Cairo's down here. It's like 1,000 kilometers. So someone at some point took at least 1,000-ton, probably more like 1,500-ton block of stone, because they didn't finish them. They didn't ship them finished. We know they finished stuff on site. Like 1,000 kilometers north. And there's an even better example, Jamie. I think in the
foot.
The foot at Tanis. No, that's it there. The first one. Yeah. In my in the massive There's actually my video thumbnail in the ancient Tanis, largest stone statue ever made. Giant, huge objects. Yeah. There you go. So there's go up one. That's the foot there. So you see that's it's funny because this block's been repurposed. It's been cut off on both sides and used as a block in a wall. They cut the front off it and the back off it and stuck it in and rebuilt it. This thing... there's a picture of the whole arm when it was put together in that directory. So that's a giant thumb holding a scroll, and they put the whole arm together. I got one picture of it. One time I was there, they put the whole arm together, and that is probably the most impressive example. It's in there, I'm sure. Let's see. It's down. Yep, up one. There you go. Yeah, so this is, it's made from composite quartzite. So this is at Karnak. This is one of several of statues of this size at Karnak. And what's impressive about this, they put this together for 1 year and then they took it apart, and I got told that it was because people were freaking out about how big this must have been. It gives a sense of scale, and then people are like, what the fuck? How are they doing this? So they took it apart again, but you can still see the thumb there today, so it's turned on its side. Now, what's cool about this is that it's a straight arm. So a lot of those statues, like the one at the Ramesseum, they're seated, so they always have their elbows bent at their knees. Mm-hmm. This thing was standing. So it was a standing statue, 1,000 tons, made from composite quartzite, which is in a lot of ways more difficult to work than granite. It's a very hard, compressed form of sandstone. It's like 6.5 to 7, but it's full of flint. It's a stone carver's nightmare. It's like you can see the chunks of flint in the stone, but they somehow work that surface just with no problem going over flint, which is 7.5 on the Mohs scale. The trick with this statue is where that stone came from. It's a Karnak in the south, Aswan for granite a bit further south. Composite quartzite doesn't come from Aswan, it comes from the Red Mountains north of Cairo. And the tricky part here is that the Nile River flows north, right? So it's because it's north that people are like, oh, it's flowing up, but it flows to the north. So they had to take the block for that thing, I'd say 1,500 tons easy. They had to bring that upriver, 600 miles or something, 500 miles.
Wow.
I don't know how you explain that, and there's certainly no depictions of them doing that. That is a logistical feat. I mean, I don't know how you can rival it.
It was a national project. Don't you get it? Don't you get it?
Just a national project. They really wanted to. Dude.
Well, it's one of those really amazing mysteries because the actual facts of it are so spectacular that it defies any conventional explanation, to the point where it opens up people to the possibility that maybe we don't know. Almost anyone listening to this, it's even remotely reasonable, that sees that goes, oh, okay.